Today on Locked On Rockies, oh boy, here we go.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 25th day of August in the year 2022. I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And who am I? Well, I'm Paul Holden. Like I said, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. I've been following this team my entire life and been breaking things down for you on the Locked On Rockies podcast here for about 2 seasons now. Today on the pod, we are talking about the big elephant in the room, a really tough road trip for the Rockies after they follow up being trounced by the Rangers yesterday. And one of the big things that caught my eye today, I saw a sports book. I can't remember which sports book it was, and they said that the Rockies Mets line for today was the Rockies have the worst odds of their entire season. So I said, all right, let's go over to our friends at BetOnline and see what they're looking like for the Rockies today, as Ryan Feltner is taking on Jacob deGrom. If you were to take the money line for the Rockies, they're at plus 359. That's about 59 whatever betting units. I'm not as well versed in what betting the numbers actually mean, but odds I should say. There's no team that comes really close to that on the plus side. The Rockies here again for tomorrow also have the worst odds here according to BetOnline. And it's not like this is a shocking revelation or anything like that. But when I hear that this is the worst odds of the year, it just sends an alarm. There's just no possible way. This matchup doesn't favor the Rockies more than any matchup, the teams that are worse than the Rockies in terms of standings. That there's been no other matchup at all. You're telling me, wow, man, the Tigers at 48 wins. But when you look at the win total, but no, Tigers 48 wins, Athletics at 48 wins, Nationals at 42, Pirates at 47. The Rockies have on average about at least seven more wins than those teams, 6 more wins than those teams. Those teams match up against those other good teams. You're telling me that at one point, at no point in this season at all, the odds have been worse for the Nationals. The Nationals haven't had a worse matchup than the Rockies are facing in this one against Jacob deGrom. And then when you're asking yourself that question, that's horrible. That's not good. That's something that needs to be another eye-opener. It's another example. It's another blemish. It's another thing to pay attention to. Why on earth is it the Rockies are so bad on the road that they have the worst odds of the entire season? They have the worst odds of anybody in baseball, right, to win their next 2 games, according to BetOnline, and it's by a lot. Obviously, deGrom is dominant. deGrom has been on a great stretch. That's the big part of it. But deGrom's been back and has been pitching at these levels against some of these other pitchings. But when it's the worst of the year for a book, you need to take that seriously. That needs to be something that you're thinking about. That needs to be something that you're considering. That needs to be something that is on your mind when you're evaluating this baseball team. The evaluation of this team. This is the title of this one is the biggest gut check. This is it. The Rockies have an opportunity when no one is counting on them. No one has any sort of confidence, faith in the Rockies to do anything. This is where you can kind of show that you got more than what you have. I'm not saying the Rockies are going to be able to come out and just with a little pep talk and everything are going to pick themselves up and go out there and handle deGrom tonight. But what I'm saying is if you do surprise people, you can look at some of these pieces. And it's another thing at this point in the season when you're evaluating this team, what some of these players are doing in big moments and big situations and how they're going to factor into the lineup going forward. At this point, every game is a valuation for the pieces for this team going forward. This team is not doing anything. There's nothing that they can really do other than try to fight their way out of the bottom of the NL West. So now, if you can go and surprise, if you win these two series, if you go on this road trip and you stay 500, you go above 500, that'll turn some heads. That'll make some people wonder. That'll make you sit there and say, okay, Ryan McMahon, Rogers, Montero core in a big spot. That's really encouraging. That makes us look forward to. But on the flip side, it's another example for the Rockies to be exposed. And it's another example for the Rockies' philosophy and the Rockies' lineup construction and the Rockies' belief in the team, the way it is built, to be exposed. What the Rockies are going up against, it's my time. I'm bringing it up again. What the Rockies are going to see the next 7 days over the next two series is playoff caliber rotations, is playoff caliber players. Both the Braves and the Mets are very good. These are two teams that have been fighting all season long. They are separated by a game and a half in the NL East. Both of these teams are salivating to be going up against the Rockies at this point of the year. If you want to show that you got more in the tank, if you want to show us as Rockies fans that this team can go up against some of the bets and they're not the Dodgers, we play the Dodgers, we see the Dodgers, we've seen enough of that. But hey, if you want to show us that this team that you believe in as much as you do as an organization, and they go out and impress here, sure. It's like getting it's like if the Rockies have a good road trip here for the front office, it's like getting some extra French fries in there. But it's also the bigger concern to show it and give fans and Rockies fans more evidence to show and point to and say, this isn't working. This team is being considered the joke of baseball, and they have more wins than the worst team in baseball. The Rockies are better statistically than the Nationals, than the Pirates, than the Reds. Just about tied with the Cubs and the Marlins, but the Rockies are better than the Tigers, and they are better than the Athletics. They are better than multiple teams in terms of record. They're also better than the Angels. They're better than the Royals. These are multiple teams that the Rockies are much better, or not much, I shouldn't say much better than, but have better statistical seasons this year. But yet they are the ones that have the worst odds going into these matchups against elite teams. That is an issue. That's a problem. That is not something that you can sit there and take as a compliment for your baseball team. It's a slap in the face to your baseball team. And it's the organizers, it's the people following sports, it's the people setting the line saying the Rockies are so bad on the road. The road Rockies are the worst team in baseball by a stretch. By a stretch. That's what BetOnline is telling you. That's what these sports books are telling you when they put the Rockies as the worst odds in all of baseball right now. And it's earned. I mean, the Rockies can't just waltz in to New York and think they're going to go and take down Jacob deGrom. But good teams that are in the hunt at this point, teams that are constructed well, teams that are actually contenders do go into New York and saying, guess what? We're going to take down Jacob deGrom. Instead, a lot of us are sitting here wondering if the Rockies are finally going to get no hit tonight. I'm putting it on the table. If I was you, if you could go down to the props, if you want to throw down on a no-hitter, you might as well. If you're feeling confident, if you feel like a no-hitter could happen, this is it. And I hate saying that. There's a weird little sense of pride that with how bad the Rockies have been, they've been able to avoid being no-hit. But that door is that day is coming. And the sports books are certainly projecting it. Interesting position, though. I mean, the Rockies it could be a really interesting moment here, and someone does have an opportunity to shine tonight if things go well. And we'll talk about that player in just a second. But before we do that, you're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride. You live nearby. You can make it home. Okay, it's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that can happen? Your insurance goes up. You lose your license. What about losing your job or totaling your car? What about killing someone? Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again, play it safe, and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. A reminder, folks, that we stream our episodes live on YouTube. And if you're watching on YouTube live right now, we answer questions live. So if you have questions that you want to ask about the Colorado Rockies, well, subscribe on YouTube and drop into the show so you can answer or ask your questions and have them answered live. We're talking about a player that has an opportunity to do a kind of a breakout moment. It's not going to be a breakout season. It's more of a breakout moment. And that's Ryan Feltner. I mean, one thing that you would really be pumped on here, if the Rockies are able to pull off the upset tonight, it's going to come on with Ryan Feltner having another really good start. It's something that the Rockies are hoping for, and it's something that you could see as they keep giving him opportunities to go forth and go ahead with seeing who Feltner is and what he's able to do. And at this point, we haven't seen Feltner be great outside of that one start. His last start was good. The other starts have been kind of shaky. A lot of hits, a lot of runs in the two starts before he shut down San Francisco. But at this point in the season, this is what we want to do. See what he does. Let him start. Let him go out there and see what happens. Ryan Feltner's last start for the Rockies against San Francisco: 6 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Man, it's a great line, and that's a dominant line. And the Rockies are going to need something like that tonight. The Rockies. You can't count on the Rockies getting. DeGrom hasn't allowed, I think, more than 3 runs in how many starts now? It's multiple starts. I think it's over 3. It's probably even longer than that. If Feltner has to be elite tonight, this is a moment for Ryan Feltner where the big leagues are here. You are going up against arguably the best pitcher that baseball has and has seen in a while. What does that mean for you? How are you going to tackle and handle this situation? If this is something where a competitor's edge should grow. This is something that should kind of pump up Ryan Feltner, and I'm hoping not too much where they're focusing too much on the stage or the setting or things of that nature. But it's a time for him to go out on a big stage and show what he can do and show consistency. What we want, I'm not asking, he doesn't have, I mean, in reality, if the Rockies want to win this game tonight, he has to be as good as he was in his last start to give the Rockies as much of a chance to win this ball game as possible. But this is an opportunity at least to go out and showcase and show yourself and kind of show what you can do and what you bring to the table on a big stage. There are ways to kind of get little glimpses of big moments and big opportunities for the Rockies, even in a season where it's no real true big moments exist anymore. Obviously, every win's great. Walk-offs, close games, those are big in-game moments, sure. But season impacting, trajectory of the organization impacting moments are going to be few and far between, the one exception being Elehuris Montero continuing to play as well as he's playing. That's a factor. And Feltner can kind of get in on that kind of big picture monumental moments if he stacks some starts together. If Feltner builds off of his San Francisco start and goes into the end of the season on good pitching, consistent starts, good low runs allowed starts, that's something that you can start feeling a little bit more encouraged about as Feltner goes on and continues to develop with the Rockies. We still have our questions and our concerns, obviously, with how the Rockies are developing pitchers and the people who are in charge of handling the pitchers right now, but that's going to be a conversation we're going to continue to have. So that's someone that he's kind of the Rocky to watch for me tonight. Obviously, you want to focus on the offense and how they're going to handle Jacob deGrom, but I mean, you kind of want to be realistic about that. I want to see Feltner go out and match the energy and keep the Rockies in this game. How are you going to be able to survive a fight with deGrom if you're the offense? Well, knowing and seeing and being in the game late. The Rockies getting down by 9 runs in the second inning isn't going to help them against Jacob deGrom. If the Mets go up ahead early tonight, if the Mets get a multiple run lead and it's the third or the fourth and the Rockies are down by 3 or 4, count them out. There's just no, I mean, if deGrom, I mean, he is going to settle in, he's going to cruise, and he's going to dominate. The Rockies have to not only score early, but they need Feltner to be really, really good tonight if they want to pull off the upset of Major League Baseball tonight, as like we were talking about in the first segment. The Rockies are not favorites by any stretch of the imagination. Some books have the Rockies at some of their worst odds to win tonight of all of the season. Our friends at BetOnline right now, the money line for the Rockies, they're sitting at plus 359 there on the money line as Ryan Feltner is taking on Jacob deGrom and the Mets here. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there's anything. I mean, if you want to go crazy on some of these props for the Rockies, all of the Rockies margins of victory right now, Rockies win by 1 run, 2 run, 3 runs, 4 or more runs, all odds of plus over 1,000. So if you want to go really wild, if you bet the Rockies want to go there, there's some, you can really cash out if you believe in your Rockies pulling off the upset tonight. A little bit of Rockies roster moves, and let's talk about that here in just a moment. Rockies are getting an arm back in the rotation. Chad Kuhl does return to the lineup for the Rockies. Chad Kuhl is back from the 15-day injured list, and Robert Stevenson has now been designated for assignment. He was traded for the Reds back in 2020. Was that part of the, I think, was that the Michael Givens trade? He used to be, it was just not a good season for Stevenson this year. 6.04 ERA here. And according to MLBTradeRumors.com, while his 97-mile-per-hour average fastball velocity still puts him among the game's hardest throwers, opposing batters have been crushing Stevenson's four-seamer to the tune of a .379 batting average. With only average secondary pitches and a lot of hard contact being allowed, Stevenson's production has fallen off, especially in the last few weeks. The righty has allowed at least 1 earned run in 7 of his last 9 appearances, with an ugly 10.24 ERA over his last 9 2/3 innings. Can't have a reliever with a ERA higher than the innings pitched. Yeah, it's just not going to do it. He didn't have any options as well, so that was kind of really the only move that the Rockies had for him. It's, I'm sure a team out there is going to look at Stevenson, someone that can throw 97 and has got a spin rate and, got a pretty good spin rate and all that stuff. They are going to go after him, and I'm sure he will be dominating the Rockies here in no time. It should be interesting to see, but the Rockies do get back to closer to full strength when it comes to the Rockies rotation. We'll see. There's also maybe some murmurings of Austin Gomber returning to the Rockies rotation, especially with him being the one that was actually the one successful pitcher in yesterday's game. But boy, it is just awful. It was just yesterday's game. Flush it, wash it, get it out of your system, and get prepared for the Rockies to bounce back against a really good team and arguably the best pitcher in all of baseball. Oh, boy. Interesting spot for the Rockies. But, hey, you never know. It's baseball. Good teams lose, bad teams win. But the betting odds do not favor the Rockies. Folks, that is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. You can find us free and streaming on your favorite streaming platform. All you got to do is search Locked On Rockies. And if you subscribe to Locked On Rockies on YouTube, you are helping out the show big time. It's a massive help. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you know when we go live, and you can pop in and get your questions answered live with our live chat. And now that you made Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day, why don't you go make Locked On MLB your second listen of the day? And we also are big time fans of our friends at the Locked On Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, and Locked On Nuggets podcast. Lots going on in the world of Colorado sports in the major four men's sports. So check out there. Thank you so much for tuning in there free at last. And until next time, I'm Paul Holden. Sign.